Welcome. Thank you all, everybody, for spending a little bit of time with us today. We have a very exciting presentation and some learning to do together. I am very excited to hear from all of our presenters. But before we do that, just a little bit of housekeeping and a little bit in the way of introductions. Hi, I'm Ryan Davis. This is a Financial Empowerment Network workshop. We're glad that you're here. If you're usually here expecting the Washington Financial Coaching Network, you're in the right place. Don't move away. We are using our time together a little bit differently. We're co-opting this and looking forward to learning a little bit more about credit building resources. So take a minute. Please introduce yourself in the chat. If you have background noise going on, please make sure that you are muted. We have enabled captions, so please enable those if you like. We will have plenty of opportunities for questions during today's workshop, so please drop them in the chat. When the time comes, feel free to raise your hand and come off mute. We want this to be as interactive as possible. You will notice that this webinar is being recorded. We plan on having this available for everyone within the next couple of days. That being said, it's usually still better live, so don't go anywhere. I'm very, very grateful for our presenters today. Just as a little bit of housekeeping and other things going on, if you're new to FEN and the Financial Empowerment Network, we're connectors. We envision communities where low and moderate income individuals and families are able to achieve financial well-being. Our mission is to advance financial empowerment through partnerships with all of you wonderful people that support access to affordable, effective, and relevant services, products, and other resources. We are here to serve you. And we do that by being a network, a place where people can come, share great ideas, learn together, and grow as a community of providers. So please take a minute. If you are new to FEN, check out our website, fenwad.org. You can sign up for awesome events and other communities of practice through our events page, fenwad.org/events. We also have a resource directory that we are in the process of keeping as up to date as possible. That is a great place to find resources on myriad different topics, everything from ways to talk about budgets and money plans with your clients, all the way up to tax resources, housing and home ownership resources, and we know that list is infinite and it is enormous. So if you know of a resource that we don't, Jennifer, I believe, is going to drop a link. Please let us know about the awesome things that are happening in your world that you think other people should know about. We have a policy for what gets posted and what we want to share with everybody. So we are doing our job. We are best when all of you share resources with us so that we can share them with all of our friends. I mentioned our events page. Please take a minute and check out our upcoming resources, our upcoming events and workshops. In July, we will have not one, but 3 different events. They're short, don't worry about it. They're lunch and learns focused on fraud and consumer protection with the Attorney General's office and the Office of the Treasurer and Washington State Employees Credit Union. We're very, very excited about that. So please take a minute and register. We also have 2 recent Bank On events. Those recordings are public on our YouTube page. So take a minute and give yourself a few hours to sort through all of the awesome things that are available here at FEN. Oh, I'm positive that there's more about us that you want to know. So please check us out on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, or just send us an email. We'd love to get to know everybody, and we're friendly. and we want to make friends with as many people as possible. So please reach out to us with questions, comments, concerns. Get engaged. We are here for y'all, here to make Washington a place where financial empowerment is strong. There we go. Let's stop sharing that. All right. With that out of the way, like I said, we have a very an exciting hour and a half ahead of everybody. We have a bunch of learning to get through, and we're diving into the topic of credit building resources. And credit in and of itself is an enormous topic. And so we wanted to do just a little bit of ground setting and making sure that we're all setting off from the same point, navigating through the same piece of this conversation. So I am pleased to spotlight Mr. Jerrel Jones, with a financial liberation coach and CEO of Credit Revolution Education Directors. He is an all-around awesome person, and is here to give us just a little bit of ground setting on the world of credit and what parts of it we will be working through today. I am so happy because I get to learn something. Jerrel, take it away for us.
All right, thank you. I'm going to do a screen share here. All right. Hope that you all are doing well. So, again, my name is Jerrel Jones, and I am the CEO of Credit Revolution Education Directors. So, I have this little screenshot here, financial coach with real results. So, started out 15 months ago, actually 17 months ago. I started out with zero credit. Within 15 months, I made it to the 700 Club, and I am now a homeowner. So, my next screen, understanding credit. So, credit is everyone's financial passport, if you know that or not. You will not be able to leave the world of poverty without credit, which is your financial passport. Barriers, no credit or bad credit causes. So, not eligible for an unsecured credit card. Renting an apartment is very hard. Buying a house would be nearly impossible. Financing a car at a reasonable price would be out of reach. Setting up insurance and utilities, you could be red flagged. Applying for a decent job would be hard, especially a livable wage job. Starting a business, you'll not have any leverage as you have no lines of credit to borrow from to actually grow or expand your business. So, what is credit? Credit is the ability to borrow money to pay it back later. Two types of credit are revolving credit and installment credit. Installment credit accounts allow you to borrow a lump sum of money from a lender and pay it back in fixed amounts. Revolving credit account offers access to an ongoing line of credit that you can borrow from on an as-needed basis. So, what is a credit score? So, it's a numerical expression representing a person's creditworthiness, commonly based on credit report, with information typically sourced from credit bureaus. What does a credit bureau do? Credit bureaus store information, past and present addresses, social security number, all public record information, bankruptcy liens and judgments against you. 3 different credit bureaus that we do have: Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. So with your FICO credit score, you have different ranges. So from poor, it'll be 300 to 579. Fair is 580 to 669. Good, you're at 670 to 739. Very good is 740, 799. And exceptional, where we all really want to get, is that 800 to 850 credit score. So what makes up your FICO credit score? So the biggest portion here is the 35%. That's your payment history. So anytime you don't pay your bills on time, you're going to get hit and dinged like 35%. That's not good. 30% is amounts owed. 15% length of credit history. One thing I always like to tell my clients, please do not close out any credit cards because that does affect your length of credit history. Just be a little bit more disciplined. 10% is your credit mix. 10% is new credit. And that is what actually makes up your FICO credit score. So what are 6 ways to actually build your credit fast? Make frequent payments, ask for higher credit limits, dispute credit report errors, become an authorized user, use a secure credit card, and as I mentioned, keep credit cards open. So these are just a few facts here to know about. 90% of millennials are in debt. 50% of adults experience barriers to home ownership. Less than 1/3 of adults are confident their retirement savings will last. You could check your own credit without impacting your score. Some creditors look at other financial indicators, not just your credit score. Closing old credit cards can hurt your credit score. Late payments only impact you once you are 30 days late. So if we're 30 days late, it's okay as long as you pay it before that 30 days. Paying off a loan could temporarily hurt your credit score. And that was the last fact. And at the very end, I just talked about what I actually do. So I do consultations, I help build and repair credit. We help with building out feasible financial plans. We host workshops and resource fairs, and we place individuals on the right path to homeownership, car purchases, and other major purchases. All right, this is just a simple little outlay of what credit is, and hopefully you guys gain something from that. And I will pass this back to Ryan. Thank you, Ryan, for the opportunity today.
Thank you so much. I know that we just absolutely sped through a whole bunch of information. So if folks have more questions about credit, please check out fenwa.org. There's a resource page for more learnings about credit. I also encourage you to check out various resources, including Jerrel and our upcoming speakers. Connect with them as we are expanding our skills with working with clients. Let's see, can I have you stop sharing screen, Jerrel?
Yes.
There we go. All right. Oh, almost. Perhaps. I don't think I can.
Stop. Oh, stop share.
There we go. Awesome. Oh, it's lovely to see everybody again. Awesome. With that, I am very excited to move us into our next section of our presentation. We have 2 credit building resources here today that I'm excited to learn more about. Kandy Bowlsby with HAPO Credit Union and Lisa Jones with Northwest Access Fund are both here to share some of their resources. Navigating to the wrong part of my screen. Oh boy. Kandy Bowlsby is passionate about empowering people in the community with knowledge and resources needed to thrive both economically and socially. I'm trying to multitask here. Failing to multitask here. There we go. Working in the financial industry greatly changed the trajectory of Kandy's life economically as she grew up in poverty. She grew up in a single-parent household. Her mother, a Mexican farm worker, worked relentlessly to ensure a brighter future for her and her children. As the oldest of 3 siblings, Kandy inherited a caregiver role to help with her family, and taking on such a great responsibility established core values that would later be used to help others. Her career at HAPO started in operations back in 2009. where she quickly found her passion to serve her community. This is where she learned her most impactful skill set, which she used to help guide her members in achieving their financial goals. Today, she is the financial education manager at HAPO Community Credit Union, where she has the opportunity to reach adults and youth of the community within HAPO's footprint and beyond. So everyone, welcome Kandy. I appreciate you spending a little bit of time with us. I'm going to breeze through some other introductions here just so that I am able to sit back and learn without worrying about talking here in a minute. Lisa Jones, we're also going to learn from Lisa Jones, serves as the Director of Economic Inclusion for Northwest Access Fund. In her role, she leads a team that provides financial coaching, benefits planning, small business development, and credit building for individuals with disabilities. With over 20 years of experience in program design, Lisa has made significant contributions to promoting economic and community development. Thank you for joining us, Lisa. I'm looking forward to hearing more about you, you and your program. And after we get a little bit more of information about HAPO Credit Union and the Northwest Access Fund, Becky House, who is the Director of Strategic Initiatives at American Financial Solutions, will be working us through a Q&A and a sort of a facilitated conversation between Kandy, Lisa, and all of us here on the call. Becky has so many awards, it's hard to pick which one I want to highlight, but she's an all-around fantastic person. She serves as the board president for the Financial Empowerment Network, co-chair of Bank on Washington, 25 years of experience in program development and nonprofit. She's the person I go to with questions the world over, and she's overall a fantastic person to have facilitating our conversation. I think on our list, Kandy is first, followed by Lisa, and then the conversation. So please, everyone, give a round of applause and show your appreciation for Kandy, Lisa, and Becky. Kandy, teach us things.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Ryan. Yeah, and Jerrel, I just want to say that I do appreciate your comment about how you said that we cannot leave the world of poverty without credit. I find that to be very true, and something that my mom, she just so happened to pick up that information, that accurate information, that credit is like everything. It's as valuable as money very early on, which really worked to her advantage in building her credit and then ultimately leading her into home ownership after, growing up in not just poverty, but also homelessness. And just a lot of experiences. So I just want to say I do appreciate that comment there. So let's see, and let me pop up I have a slide deck, but it's not really a lot of information here. It's more just so you have a visual here. So I'll pull that up here in just a second. Oh, and it's not coming up as an option. Let's see, maybe this way here. Okay, is that coming up?
It says that you have started sharing. I see a blank screen, however.
Oh, okay.
I see a thing. There we go. My computer maybe just needed to think about
there? Okay, alrighty. It's just really slow. Okay. Okay, let's go from the beginning there. Okay, alrighty. So our credit builder loan, we launched it about, I want to say a little bit over a year ago. And it's been really an interesting journey. And there's been a lot of things that we have learned from that I'll be happy to share here throughout this presentation. To start off with, what I'll go over is just some of the basics of what the loan looks like. So it is a product that we offer to members only. I do say that just because there are some services such as financial coaching that we offer to non-members. This particular product is offered to members, of course, because we do require an account to be attached to the product. The way it's framed, it actually follows an existing product that we've had in place for a long time, which is a signature loan, aka a personal loan. And I'll go into a little bit more detail here in the next slide on that and what that looks like. The way it works, it's simply we just issue a loan to the member for a certain amount, which we turn around and place permanently into a savings account. And while the member is making payments, we're reporting that to the credit bureau. So as long as they're making their payments on time, not past that 30 days, like Jerrel mentioned, then that is reporting as positive history on their reports. And the key there is, of course, that we want to have that history for as long as possible. So we can go up to 24 months, which we recommend. But if not, we do have some members that choose for like a year, which is still, something that is helpful. Let's see. And of course, the desired outcome of this type of loan is we want it to be paid in full, right? So that it reflects on their credit report that it has been something that has been paid on time every month for the duration of the loan. What we end up doing once that loan is paid off is we do release the funds back to the member, but only once it's paid in full and with guaranteed funds. So just something I wanted to plug in there. And then, of course, that leads to a positive outcome on the credit history and the credit score ultimately. So here are some of the requirements and qualifications. I know it's a really lengthy list. And this is actually something that we're kind of in the middle of revising right now, just because we did come across some things. And I'll go over that here in just a moment. Some opportunities to just improve the product. So of course, we do require the member to be in good standing with the credit union. The maximum loan amount is $1,000 as it's stated here. And the minimum monthly payment, it really is just determined by the amount of time that the loan is set for, no more than 24 months, of course. There is a required minimum income, which is $1,000 a month, and which does require a direct deposit from the employer. And this is actually one of those things that we found out a few months, actually more than a few months ago now, some time back when we visited our Vancouver branches. We had some staff share some feedback about how they were having trouble with that requirement because it just so happened that they had a couple members apply that their employer didn't offer direct deposit. They work for like a construction company. That was one example, and they didn't offer it. So it felt kind of weird, like, okay, well, that's out of the member's control. We can't count this against the member, right? It's something that they can't change. So that is something that was brought up to our underwriters, of course. And that's one of the things that right now, the way we're looking at it, it's on a case by case. And just like with anything else, right, being in the credit union world, it's not black and white. We can get really creative with things. We are open to looking at applications and these requirements as well to figure out, okay, like what makes sense here and what can we do to help our members out. So another requirement is that we do require an automatic payment set up on a monthly basis. And the credit score is determined by the member's credit score at the time of application. So our BP here stands for risk-based pricing. The way that's set is depending on the member's score, it can range anywhere from as low as 11.99% to 16%, depending on what the member's credit score is. A 750 credit score or higher is what will earn that 11.99%. So we just pretty much matched up the rates, very similar to what we do with our existing signature loan that we've had for many, many years. And it seemed to work out well. So another requirement that we have is that the borrower does have to be the primary on the account, just because of the way our system works, and we need to link things up and report to the credit bureau. And then the funds, like I mentioned earlier, are held permanently in a savings account until it is paid in full. And once it's been verified, it's been paid in full with guaranteed funds, then we release the funds back. So a good way to look at this is just kind of like a savings account, if you will, because the member doesn't get, that money up front. It's frozen, and then the member makes the payment, and then at the very end, they get that money. So I guess that's kind of like the simplest way that I can describe it. And I say that just because there was some confusion very early on amongst our staff and how that worked and what that looked like, because we have another product that's not a credit builder. It's actually a shared secured visa that works a little similar. And I can actually go into details on that as well, because I think we have a little bit of time just to explain the difference there. Here on this page, it's just going over what happens, if the member defaults. Really, it's similar to any other loan that is held here at the credit union. Pretty standard procedure on there. And of course, one thing too that's really neat about our asset, we call them it's asset recovery team. They're really spectacular when it comes to communicating with our members and just really showing that empathy piece and, being really open with members and just stating, even like when we go out and teach in the community, we talk about if you are ever in a position where you're not able to make a payment or something comes up, life happens, communicate. That is the best thing you can do, especially during, shortly after COVID. We've learned that we had to really just have these conversations to figure out how we can help our members, right? Because they're being impacted on their jobs, something that's out of their control. And we worked really hard on finding ways to not have that impact them in a negative way. So that is one thing that we emphasize is to communicate with us, and we will figure out a way so that it doesn't hurt the member, of course, wherever we can. Since we have a little bit of time here, extra time, I'm going to go over the shared secured visa that we offer. And the reason why I wanted to bring it up was because what we found out is that when we had applications for our credit builder product, out of those applications, 44% of them became something else. It ended up that the member actually qualified for another type of loan that was really in their benefit. So the way our shared secured visa works is we set a limit of anywhere from 300 is the minimum, with 15,000 being the maximum, at an 18% rate. And what we ask for is for 110% of whatever that member wants that limit to be secured and frozen in a savings account to secure it, right? So that's actually one of the ones that I personally, when I was in operations, helped a lot of our membership with, especially when we had young members come in that had nothing and weren't really given a chance. It was a little easier sometimes to, hey, I have, $330, like I can, go with that option. And that proved to be very helpful. And then of course, there's no fees. Or I forgot to mention that there is no application fee or anything like that for the credit builder loan. And there's also no fees for the shared secured visa. So one of the things with the shared secured visa is that, of course, depending on how the member uses it and repays the balance, there's ways where they don't have to pay like a penny in interest, right? So as long as they're paying off their balance in full, and of course, we recommend that they keep that balance below 40% of whatever that limit is to help with capacity to boost that credit score. We just ask them to pay, if they can, that balance in full within that grace period, which for us, it's 25 days. If they do that, then they don't pay any interest. And then it's absolutely zero cost to them. Versus like, if you look at the credit builder loan, the rates can be, like I mentioned, anywhere from 11.99 to 16%. Then there's not fees, but there is a cost for the interest, right? Which is not a lot. I was just curious to see. So I just ran an amortization schedule on 1 year at 11.99. It ends up being a little over $66. So not much, but still, hey, if you don't want to pay anything, there's other ways to go about that. Another thing I wanted to bring up was that we do also offer free financial coaching. So that is where actually through a lot of those conversations, we found that, hey, sometimes like this isn't the best route for the member because maybe they have, like, let's say, for example, they're needing to renovate something in their home and they need, $5,000 for it. And it just so happens that they have a clear title to a vehicle that has that value. Hey, well, there you go. There's an opportunity, to build credit for something that you need, and also at a lower rate because then it's a secured loan and it's going to be at a lot lower rate than that 11.99 even, depending on the year and all that as well. So something, yeah, like I mentioned, I wanted to emphasize that through those journeys and those conversations with our financial coaches, we have found that, I think somewhere I saw that there's no one size fits all, when it comes to people's credit journeys. And it's been really neat to just hear different stories about how members have either establish credit or just reestablish, because we have had situations where, you know, we have had, you know, life events happen which lead to bankruptcy or whatnot, and where our financial coaches are able to turn around those situations. And I've seen them personally myself with members coming in, you know, in the 500s and, you know, a few years of work, you know, but consistent work where they're able to flip that around to, you know, high 700s and, you know, owning cars, owning a home, you know, a lot of opportunities there. But just something I did want to just mention that is probably, well, not just because that's a program that I oversee with our coaches, but it's probably one of my favorite services, just because it is a very unique and tailored approach to assist our members. And for those members that don't want to have those conversations, because then, you know, there's the other psychological piece. There's the, you know, there's fear that comes with there. There's shame sometimes that comes with that. We do have other ways for them to remain anonymous, if you will, where we offer free resources for them to kind of just at their own pace access, completely free of charge. And I think that is, yeah, that is it. And on this last slide here, I just have my contact information. If anyone has any specific questions, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to share anything about this program or just anything else that we oversee.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Keep going.
Oh, I was going to say, I don't know if Q&A is now or if we wait until after.
I have written down some questions, but I think we'll compile all of the quick Q&A into one section just so that we can maybe have Lisa and Kandy bounce off of each other if questions land in both of your wheelhouses. But I have seen a couple of questions entering into the chat. I have written them down if they scroll away from us too fast. But please feel free to scroll through the chat and answer some questions if you feel like they are easily answered in a chat format. Awesome. With that, Lisa, everyone, please give a big round of applause for Kandy. I so deeply appreciate learning more about HAPO Credit Union and credit building loans in general. I think they're wonderful resources and I like them a lot. Oh boy. Lisa, tell us a little bit more about the Northwest Access Fund and the cool things that you have going on.
Thanks for having us today. I'll start with just kind of what we do at Northwest Access Fund. We've been around for over 20 years now, I think since the early 2000s. And our mission is around helping individuals who identify with a disability be able to have more financial independence, access things that they need, and really just understand how their disability benefits work and how to access some of the great assistive technology and modified vehicles that are really beautiful, but also really come with a big price tag. So I specifically supervise our financial coaching and disability benefits planning team. I'm very fortunate to work with a group of folks that are really dedicated and passionate about the work we do and the people that we serve. Credit building has been a big part of that. Our coaches are most all certified disability benefits planners. So they're able to give individuals that were doing coaching, budgeting, credit building, benefits planning with a very clear picture of what their finances will look like based on different aspects of their finances. So how much can they work? How do they report wages? How do they build credit in a system that is enforcing poverty through income and asset limits for those individuals? Credit building is a big part of that. I've been involved in credit building for a couple decades now, and I very much believe in the power of it. But even more so for the individuals we serve, a lot of times individuals who identify with a disability feel that financial matters are out of their control. When we're able to show someone how they can move their own credit score, it is so empowering to them. And we have seen time and time again that they start with credit building and then they're taking on asset development, and they're changing the way their budget looks. They're looking at ways to obtain resources and assets that they didn't think were possible before. So we found it to be a really wonderful tool. And we've also had a lot of folks that went through credit building and then referred other people back to us because of that. So we feel like it's a very positive experience for our clients. Before I go into our credit building products, I want to just talk a little bit about credit and disability. I mentioned like the income and asset limits, and all of those things affect your ability. Kandy mentioned, like the like credit to save programs and matching savings. A lot of those things are not a good fit for individuals receiving disability benefits because it does push them over those income and asset restrictions. We have one of my favorite success stories. We had an individual that was working with our coach, 59 years old, not a single item on her credit. Nothing. There was no bad, there was no good, there was nothing, but it was holding her out of housing by not having a credit score. So we're looking at someone that is in basically forced homelessness because of lack of access to credit. And we were able to move that credit score and get that person housed. So in a very, what I consider, a few months, a very short amount of time to go from being denied to being accepted in that system. So everything that we do around credit, like we utilize a FICO 9 score. FICO 9 does not view medical as a negative. And if you're looking at different types of scores that are a little more friendly in regards to medical debt, like if you're using a Vantage score 3.0 and 4.0, they disregard medical debt completely. And that's important to the individuals that we serve because often medical collections are the only thing on their reports. But again, everything we're doing, we're processing through that. How will this affect everything else going on in your life by trying to grow that credit? So we utilize the Credit Builders Alliance model. We're looking at getting good things going. I know many of you, we just had like a CBA symposium, and I think Washington was very well represented at that. I saw a few of you there, but we're using that model of getting good things going, creating positive accounts, and not dwelling as much on negative collection lines, because often we're working with individuals with a very small monthly budget, a little bit over $900 a month, some of them. And so it's not realistic for them to look at a model of debt management that would have them making payments on a number of collection accounts, because it just, that would be choosing between, do I eat, do I live in a house with a roof over my head, versus paying on that collection. So we're looking at creating new lines and good lines. We have a credit building loan product that we offer in partnership with Express Credit Union. So we offer a microloan for $250. It can start that low. It can also work up, and then we issue that $250 to Express Credit Union as a deposit to open the secured credit card. So one $250 microloan has now created 2 active lines, and it has created a mix of credit. There's a revolving aspect and there's an installment loan there as well. The payment on that $250 credit building loan is typically $21.40. That's for a year, and we feel like that's a good amount of time to get them in a secured product and then have a chance to build their credit and be able to access unsecured credit products. And their total interest, we do those at a 5% interest rate. And so their total interest on those is $6.82. Obviously, that is not paying us to do those, but we do feel like having it is a more realistic picture of what to expect when borrowing money if there's some interest rate tied to it. We do have a 0% interest credit building loan for individuals that are 18 to 25 and are trying to establish credit for the first time. And the 0% interest, we made a decision because of working with youth, we felt like any interest rate at all felt, even though it isn't predatory, it just felt like a little kinder to have the 0% interest for new credit builders. There are no fees attached to those credit building loans, so they what you see is what you get, and we can do those up to a 1-year term. In special circumstances, we could go a little longer if it's a better fit for the client's budget. We do not look at, obviously, credit as a factor, with the exception that we're looking at the credit score or the credit report to see if this person is a good fit for a credit building loan. We're looking for someone that is unscored or they have a very thin file. We are not looking for someone who has a 482 credit score because they have 8 open trade lines and all of those are past due, or all of those are, they have 3 or 4 credit lines, but they're all pushed right up to that, to their limit, because that is not a fit for our product. We're going to be advising those folks, pay down on your debt, pay on time, pay on time, pay on time. And but this credit building product is new or thin file only. Let's see. I thought I was going to have less time, so I'm talking really quickly. I will slow down and see what other areas I've missed. Much like the product that Kandy was talking about, we offer moratoriums if someone's challenged. Maybe they've lost employment, someone wrote them a bad check. Like, there's a number of things that can happen. Life happens. Cost of services and goods go up. So if someone's struggling to make a payment, we can work with them. And we want to be able to report positively to the credit bureaus in these situations. So we're really tying together the coaching aspect with the loan, and that allows people to come back to us and say, hey, is this the right direction to go? Should I make this decision? And all of our services are client driven. So we're providing them with education and information, but ultimately they're making decisions on what direction to go on their credit. In regards to the credit building loan, again, in relationship to disability benefits, when the individual has paid off the $250 to us in the microloan, we notify Express Credit Union, and they are at that point able to release the $250 of deposit money back to the client. We are very strategic in how we do that because, again, we don't want to push someone into a problem with our SSI. So we're either releasing those funds into an ABLE account, which is a special savings account for individuals with a disability, so it does not affect those income and asset limits, or we're releasing those funds towards the first part of the month. And that is a way to, they have a longer amount of time to kind of spend that money, so it's not sitting there negatively affecting their limits. typically at that point too, within a year's time, they do have a good enough score to go ahead and keep a secured product. And understand how credit is working for them. Let's see. I think that is kind of our program in a nutshell. Obviously, our other small opportunity loans do not, I mean, they're building credit. We're reporting to all 3 credit bureaus on every loan that we issue through Northwest Access Fund. And then we're, let's see. I apologize. I get distracted by the chat, so I have to not have it open, or otherwise I lose track. But yeah, we're also working on, we do some debt consolidation loans to help with credit building as well. People who are in, you know, high interest cards or the Affirm loans that come through Amazon, Walmart Plus, some of those are as high as 29. We've seen some 29 and 36% interest. And again, limited income, they're just in a revolving cycle of just paying, actually hitting their principal. So for individuals working with coaching, we are able to do some debt consolidation loans. What we don't like to do, for the sake of the client, is offer debt consolidation loans to just anyone that calls us. Sometimes if they're not changing their spending behavior, you're just pushing them into a situation. Oh, now all my credit cards are at a 0 balance, so I can spend them all up. Plus, I have this loan as well. So we've now created a problem instead of a solution, and we really try not to do that. So I think that's about it. That's our credit program kind of in a nutshell. I'm sure my coaches are saying she's missed big chunks of that, but definitely happy to answer any questions.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Lisa. Everyone, please show your love and appreciation for Lisa. I greatly appreciate learning more about Northwest Access Fund. Every time there's a chance to learn more, I feel like there's a piece of the pie that I'm uncovering. With that, I want to steal something from our friend Jenna Finesse. If you're ready for the discussion piece, put a D in the chat. And to handle this discussion piece of our conversation, I want to turn our conversation over to the one and only Becky House. I'm going to add her to the spotlight here. There are a number of questions that came in through the chat, so I think we can probably start with those. A few for both Kandy and Lisa. Wherever you guys want to start. Becky, I'm going to turn it over to you to handle the rest of this conversation.
Thank you, Ryan. But you know what? I was going to ask you because you said you were writing down the questions.
Oh, sure. Well, I'm happy to fire them away.
I got to scroll back up if I'm going to find the questions now.
All right, wonderful. Well, I think the biggest question that I saw in the chat that I think is a great place to start, Kandy. How does one become a member of HAPO Credit Union or a credit union in general?
Yeah, so for membership, it's really easy. Back in the day when I first started, our required minimum deposit was $5. We changed that to 0. So there's no minimum requirement for a base savings account. So really, you just have to be, you have to live, work, or worship in the state of Washington or certain counties of Oregon and now Idaho. We actually expanded into Idaho. So it's very, very simple.
Love it. I like easy front doors. That makes things nice. The other question that I didn't see get answered in the chat for Kandy is what happens to the interest on a credit building loan? Where does that go to y'all? Does that go back to the account holder?
No, it does not go back to the account holder. And honestly, just like I'm really happy to be here just because of a lot of the information that like Lisa had to share right now. I'm happy to take back to our team and share, what's being done out there so that we can be just more, inclusive. So yeah, no, that is something that we do. That's why I mentioned the share secured visa, because if, we have a member that doesn't want to pay anything, because there is a way to do it. That's something that I personally, when I was in operations, I would offer myself and just explain, okay, this is what you have to do. And I helped numerous members build their credit in that way for nothing, zero cost.
Awesome. Awesome. And then just a blanket, could you post any links for applying to stuff? And then I see one just came in here from Jerrel. Do you guys serve individuals that are paid stipends that meet I'm assuming that's $1,000 threshold or $100 threshold?
So as far as the income goes, it doesn't matter where it comes from, as long as it's at minimum.
Wonderful, wonderful. Numbers are not my friend either, Jerrel. Yeah, so I would just encourage you to drop a link to the general application process if you can in the chat, or just talk a little bit more about that. Is the other thing that came up for HAPO questions.
Yeah, I did see, I scrolled back here and how we can apply. So it used to be available actually very early on when it was launched through the website. We removed that because of some of the things that we learned and just the way when we had members apply, it was just, I think, more confusing, and we had a lot of them ended up being denied. So then we pulled it temporarily and actually make it accessible through our contact center. So you can call to apply, or you can just apply in a branch. And the reason for that now, just temporarily, is so that we're able to provide just additional information that may be needed to make sure that, hey, this is like what the member is actually looking for, or like this is the best fit for the member.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for that explanation. I appreciate that. I'm not sure if there was another question for HAPO in the chat. If there was, I apologize for scrolling past it. Feel free to post it again. The question that I saw for Northwest Access Fund is helping with other monthly payments, and let's see. With working with individuals with a very low monthly income, how do you work to keep their monthly payments low for products they might apply for to help with housing? Are they able to afford any mortgage products you might offer if you offer them?
That's really our underwriting in a nutshell, Ryan. We are looking at the budget to see if you are able to make the payment. We don't ever want you to make a choice between food, housing, those types of things. And that's why the coaching is really integral to the credit building, because the coaches are aware of just so many resources across all 3 states that we serve. So sometimes we will see someone that comes to us with an application and we cannot carve out the $21 anywhere. And a coach will work with them, and maybe they're not utilizing LIHEAP. And that puts another, $50 in their budget and allows them to have a little bit more disposable income. Maybe we're looking at a bank statement and we see that they're because of transportation issues, like they're utilizing a lot of Uber Eats or fees for different food delivery and things like that. So we offer them solutions for solving some of those problems to try and loosen the budget up a little bit. A lot of times too, like I mentioned, the high interest costs of other products. A lot of times by us simply refinancing a higher interest, we're relieving, it could be over $100 that we're able to put back in their budget, but we're looking at the total picture. We never look at credit in a vacuum, because it's definitely affected by so many other things.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. The one just came into the chat, but I believe that we are caught up, and that will allow me to go back on mute and hand it officially over to Becky for reals.
All right. I'm gonna I'm gonna ask a question for Lisa. And then I'm going to ask another question that's kind of, I think I'm going to put it in Lisa's vein too. Just because I know we just both attended the same conference and got a mind full of information about credit scoring. And so I think she'd be great to answer this question in the chat. But first of all, Lisa, the question in the chat right now is how much do you have to place towards the secured credit line after doing the $250 micro loan?
Like to follow up, to get an additional card? Is that what you're meaning?
I'm not sure. That's the question. Jerrel, do you want to unmute?
Yes, thank you. So in your presentation, you were saying that for the micro loan, that would give you access to 2 lines of credit due to opening it that up. So I was just wondering, like, understand you said the micro loan was for $250. So I'm quite sure that you're putting that up front, the 250 for the micro loan, but how much are you putting towards the secured credit card though too? Or is that a separate fee?
Oh, no, it's the same $250. So we're
Oh,
making a microloan for $250, but we're putting that in a secured deposit at Express Credit Union, and that creates the deposit for the secured credit card. So it's only one $250 creating 2 lines. And we chose that intentionally lower number just because of that $21 a month payment is most of the time affordable for people that we're working with, whereas a larger deposit might not be something that they could afford. And, credit scores are an algorithm. It's either a 0 or a 1, whether it's $1 million or $250, it's affecting your credit in the same positive way.
thanks for elaborating that. I never heard of that actual program, but I love it though. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
That's wonderful. It is. It's everybody. The programs that we are hearing about today are amazing and great opportunities for people to get connected with your clients. If you're serving people in financial coaching right now, this is a perfect opportunity to build what we've talked about in this industry a lot, like that brain trust, the people that you can go to learn more information and get more information. Excuse me. I wanted to go back kind of to, there's a question in the chat about credit scoring, but one of the things that Lisa also mentioned when they do their underwriting for these loans, what they're looking at, and they're looking at the FICO 9 score. So there's a question about the difference in FICO and Vantage scores. Definitely people are answering that in the chat too, that they're using different algorithms and that one is owned by FICO and one was created and promoted through the 3 credit bureaus, the Vantage score. But even within the FICO scoring, there are several different models, and that's, Lisa, if you could talk just a little bit more about the differences in some of those models. If I'm not, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
This is kind of a loaded question because no. At the Credit Builders Alliance Symposium, Becky and I and others there got a preview of the FICO 10T scoring, and we did feel like some of the aspects of that newer model were somewhat discriminatory, both to BIPOC communities and also low to moderate income households. But in general, FICO, they started, it's perfectly acceptable to use about any FICO. Becky, didn't you say you all are utilizing FICO? Are you using 8?
For most things, we're using 8. In housing, we still are using a FICO 4 because that's what's accepted in mortgage.
Yeah. So anyone you choose to use, you just need to realize that there are some differences between them. Again, we were intentional in using the FICO 9 because of the medical debt was a big thing. the people we are serving. But as long as you're, I mean, some things remain true regardless of what score you're using. If you're using a FICO 2 versus a FICO 10, some things are constantly true. Paying back on time is key to having a good score. Like Jerrel mentioned, 35% of your credit score paying on time. So that's something that we really need to drive home. Percentage of your credit being used. I mean, I think that's probably, in my experience in credit building, that's a thing that those of us in credit building understand, but the general public does not understand that if you have a $10,000 credit card, you don't need to spend $10,000. You need to spend no more than, 3,000 or even less now. The newer FICO models are really pushing that percentage down, is what we saw at the symposium. So regardless of what you're using, just understand what the report you're sharing is telling them, and the different kind of, you can do a lot of research online. You can really go down a wormhole and spend a lot of time on how different all the reports are. But just being consistent in how you're counseling on credit is probably the most important factor.
That's
And
great,
Becky,
Lisa.
please add.
No, I think that's fantastic. And I think for people, it's, if you're on the financial coaching side of that, I feel like it's really important that, you express to clients and you can communicate that to clients, that people are, it does, you might go to this lender and this lender is using this type of scoring model. You might go to this lender and this lender is using this type of scoring model. And that's it's good for us to know if we're referring people to that, but we're not always going to know. And even as a consumer, me, just myself, I'm not always going to know what's going on. So it goes straight back to Jerrel's, first few slides about what is our, that credit score made up of. Making our payments on time every time, keeping our debt low, keeping up our history, those basic things. That's what we have to focus on with our clients. And Tiara, I'm sorry, you have your hand up patiently.
Thank you, Becky. Thank you, everyone. I was also at a credit conference last month and learned about the FICO 10T. And Lisa, you said it very calmly, but I am like outraged by it. And it's because of the trending data that will, they're looking at the last 24 months. And for some, I help people build their credit. So, we get them to a place, but then now the last 2 years is still going to impact them. And then I also can see how it would hurt individuals who just like their credit card rewards and want to use their credit card for as much as they can because it's safer than using your debit card. It's safer than using cash. But at some point, your utilization might be higher or your balances might be higher because you're using your credit card to get the rewards. So I'm just curious when it comes to FICO 10T and home ownership, who decides what you're going to use? You said that we're still using FICO 4 mainly, Becky, but I think, seeing how the FICO 10T can keep certain people out of home ownership, the system is designed in a certain way. So who is it up to say that we're going to adapt the FICO 10T, and is there the ability for financial institutions to say, no, we want to stay with FICO 4? I hope that makes sense.
It does make sense. It makes perfect sense. And the thing that this is kind of the weird silver lining, right? We look at it and go, as a lender, lenders can decide what they're going to use, what scoring model they're going to use. And typically lenders are on the side of, conservativeness, right? So they're going to use something that they know and something that they trust and something that gets results. So they, if they're used to using a FICO 8, then, to get them to move off of that FICO 8 is going to be harder. Now, if FICO wants them to move off of that FICO 8, they want them to move to the next greatest and, best thing. They did say at the conference something to the effect of they had worked with the Federal Housing Administration, and that the 10T could be used in home ownership. But again, we all know how quickly the government works. So I think I shouldn't say this, but I'm saying this anyway. You know, we're hoping that it's slow and there's a slow, uptake in using that if it ever gets to that point. And I can also say that, for as a community, right? So we're in this group of a few hundred people in this room learning this information, and there was nobody in the room who was like, this is fantastic news. The entire room. I mean, Lisa, correct me if I'm wrong, but the people from FICO that were there were under fire. So there was a lot of backlash.
Yeah, they were.
So hopefully, they're taking that back to headquarters, whatever, if you will, and saying, hey, this is not something that the community is behind, is getting behind. So it is scary, for lack of a better word. You feel like you make some strides, or we make strides in the community, and then things happen.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
For financial institutions, I know we have a lot here. Are there any benefits to switch to a model like that? I mean, it could give a more in-depth picture of someone, the history, the last 2 years, but we all financial coaches here, we know people change. So I could see how financial institutions would want that data. But are there other benefits or negatives for financial institutions when you guys think about taking on something like FICO 10T with the trending data?
That's a great question. Any thoughts?
This workshop doesn't have to have all of the answers.
No, and we don't. And one of the things, oh, sorry, Rochelle, go ahead.
I was going to say, we do a lot personally at WAFED. We do internal underwriting for our mortgages that are person-based, and then we have automatic underwriting for other situations. And I wonder, like, if there's costs. I also would wonder if there is situations where we are, I don't know, in a subscription, for lack of a better term, to a certain product for a certain amount of time, where we need to use that until we're out of it, where we can review different methods and scenarios.
I think that makes sense. I don't work for a financial institution, so I don't really know how, what that looks like.
So I do think that, at least speaking for my institution, I've been doing mortgages until recently, and I've worked through some very complicated credit scenarios and been able to get some stuff done. And it's on the home buying process, so it's it's big, but if we have a good explanation, our underwriters listen. And that's like, a lot of people are even offended. We'll be like, okay, there's a late payment, can you tell me what happened? Because that will be a good offset for the late payment. Now, I know not all institutions have a similar service.
That's very true. And I think it's a great, when you think about working with clients, making sure that they know that they have options, right? So there are places to go where people can get information. And I mean, they can go directly to lenders and look at, what do they offer? And kind of knowing where you're sending people to, so they aren't getting stuck in this process of being turned down, again and again. When maybe you've just been able to get them to the point that they feel like they can talk about their finances. So maybe I know, Kandy, you said that you at HAPO provide financial coaching. Is there a way that you kind of help people maybe get over that fear of wanting to talk about their finances, or being comfortable talking about their finances?
Yeah, so a long time ago, actually, we have a partnership with GreenPath Financial Services. I don't know if anybody here has heard of GreenPath. We've been partners or had their services for over 6 years now. And they, a few years ago, introduced what they call an empathy coach, which we really appreciated because we were able to have their specialists come in and train our financial coaches on how to have these difficult conversations with our members. And what we have been doing since is we do offer what we call like enrichment training to our financial coaches. Because, well, first of all, to become a financial coach, what we do is we put our employees through the 5-step program to earn their CCUFC designation. But then from there, it's like one of those things where we really believed in, like, that's not it, it doesn't end there. There's still so much more. Of course, there's a recertification that comes along with that program every 3 years that offers all of the relevant updates. But furthermore, we feel that it was very important to continue just that education, like on a monthly, quarterly basis on relevant information. And sometimes it is just kind of like those round table opportunities where our coaches can just talk and share, like, hey, do you have any examples of just something that you overcame or just a difficult situation? And we have had a lot of just success stories where our members have felt very confident and comfortable in trusting our coaches, where one of the things actually about a year ago, which we started seeing, was there were some members that were coming in that had issues with like domestic violence, as an example, something that that's really personal and difficult to talk about, period. But to talk about that openly with someone at a financial institution is kind of like, wow, like they really just were able to overcome, those obstacles and those hurdles in just earning that member's trust. And I believe that a lot of that comes just from that continuous education that we offer to our coaches and how to navigate those conversations.
That's great. I think that's amazing. Um, and it is so important to be able to relate to the person, and just having that listening, kind of calming situation with someone as you're meeting. Jerrel, are there techniques that you use to kind of to build trust and rapport with people as you're working with them?
Use my own personal story.
You can, yeah.
Yeah. Started out knowing nothing about 17 months ago. My parents didn't know anything. Grandparents didn't know anything. I felt very vulnerable having to admit that, I come from a long line of people that didn't know nothing. So, I utilize that and let people know I've made mistakes in life. And guess what? It's not the end of it. And, together we can work together and come up with a plan, have empathy, as Kandy was saying. Also, just be non-judgmental and be patient. Have a lot of patience, though. I think that's number one. And we must remember at all times as financial coaches that what may seem common to us is not so common to a lot of other folks.
Wow, those are great. Patience, non-judgmental, and remembering that, yeah, not everybody has access to the same information. That's huge. Do you have like specific things that you do to try? I mean, actually, I know I'm answering my own question here because you just said it. When you're sharing your experience, that's what you were saying, that sharing your own story. And Sarah from KCHA said the same thing. Many times your own story is relatable and helps to build trust, and I think that's very, very true. For all of you, what are some common misconceptions that people have about credit, and how do you address those things?
I can go ahead and go.
Thanks, Kandy. I didn't call on anyone.
Okay. So I know that in the few branches that I've worked in, there were a lot of members that came in with misinformation in regards to co-signing on loans and how that doesn't impact somebody. It doesn't mean anything. Just because of a lot of just misinformation, for one, that was out in the communities. And the communities in which we serve are really large Hispanic, Spanish-speaking populations. So there's already kind of like that mistrust just from coming from places where there's broken systems or lack thereof, where they rely on friends and family for information, right? On like what's right about credit or just finances or anything. So that's something that we commonly saw, where we would have someone come in and apply for a loan and then they were denied because they were maxed out on their debt to income ratio because they had these other loans. So that's where we had to explain, oh, actually it does, affect you, and just inform the member on how that does impact them. And actually I just did a credit / home buying seminar like a couple weeks ago, and that very same question was brought up again, where someone was concerned about that, and I just explained it to them, and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, no, that makes sense, but it's in those conversations where then they turn around and start spreading that information with their friends and family, which helps, just also bring people to us, because then they learn like, oh, okay, yeah, like she helped me, in a non-judgmental way, and a just very genuine interest to serve and to help the members.
That's great. It's a trusted, a trusted source, that's valid and has provided those services, and now they can go back out into the community and hopefully, just like you said, spread that word. Charnel, you have your hand up.
I was just going to add that one of the things that I think is kind of a common misunderstanding in developing or establishing credit is people seem to a lot of times think they need to get like several credit cards or several different kinds of loans at one time or in short order. And so, then you have a lot of inquiries that are hitting the credit report, and some lenders can think, why is this person wanting so many things all at once? And then to go along with that, people also kind of think that they need to use a lot of their credit limits to establish that good credit. And so when I'm coaching people who want to begin to, develop a credit score, I try to talk a lot with them about, you don't have to go and apply for a lot of things all at once. And we do want to, pace ourselves. And then I talk a lot about the credit score and how just payment history and utilization rate is 65% of your overall score. So we need to really make sure that, that we know how that works. And so I try to spend a lot of time, talking to people about those specific aspects when they're working on building credit, to minimize inquiries, not think they have to have a lot of new credit, and to really know how much payment history and utilization affects them. Because I've seen so many people think, well, the creditors gave me, a $5,000 credit limit, so why is this a problem when it comes to my score, and some people are just really floored by that. So those are the things I try to really key in on.
Right. And that's it's the thing. It's almost, there's the side of financial coach, which is, telling people the reality about credit, trying to help people see that, the reality about credit. And then the other side, the business, right, of being able to extend people credit, which people, as Jerrel pointed out at the very beginning, credit really can be helpful in our lives as long as we're using it correctly. So we need to have it, but we also need to know how to use it, and we need to be empowered to use it well. Yeah. Jerrel, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to add in a few different things. So pride is big when dealing with a lot of clients. Fear of judgment. So always have to reassure, clients that I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to, help you out. And another big thing I actually see is intimidation. They have a lot of fear dealing with creditors, and on my last grant that we received, with the 10 clients I had, majority of the individuals I had really didn't have anything big or major that they had to deal with. However, they were just fearful actually even checking. So, just give them over the fear and let them know that it's not, this is something that we could deal with together. And I'm not going to allow, these creditors to bully you. So, I basically, hold their hand through this whole process and, make these phone calls in front of them and let them know, they're harmless. We can get this done.
So then that's support. I mean, and I think that's great. So that's, sharing your story, right? That's one of the pieces that you pointed out, being, well, supportive. I know I just said that like 5 times, but anyway, but it's being supportive, and like that person who is, that got you, right? Person as you're assisting them through, working through their credit. Lisa, have you had some experiences with people who have been, where they've just been like, no, I'm not interested. I don't want to look at my credit. And how have you moved them through that?
I think that's the really big thing with the coaching being client driven, because we're going in the direction that the client wants to go, but we're also being realistic with them and saying, okay, we understand you're trying to overcome this barrier in your life, but getting that better credit score can really make a difference for you. And I know one of the strategies that I've used in the past that I feel like helps people overcome some of that hesitation is like, hey, I don't care what your score is now. I'm going to show you what's behind the curtain. I'm going to reveal the secrets of this credit industry, and it is an industry. And, there, as we know, there are issues within that system, but I'm at least going to teach you the rules that they're playing by, so you have a level playing field in trying to work with your credit. Because if I don't know the rules, I don't know how to change what's going on in my own score. And a lot of times it just takes just giving that small amount of information and kind of letting them know. Again, everyone is having to play within the system that is broken, but it is the system we have to deal with. So let's at least give you the most knowledge you can have in order to change things to go better for you. So I think that's worked in the past. And our coaches too just have they really are talking to people, especially individuals who identify with a disability. We're talking about a lot of sensitive information that, based from trauma, and trying to work through all those things. Honestly, sometimes credit isn't the scariest thing that they're having to deal with. Sometimes that's an easier thing for us to talk about.
Yeah, that's very true. But all the other life things that are going on in the background that people have to deal with, and that are going on in their own head, right? That they're trying to manage in addition to finances and credit and all of that. And it all works together and can be very overwhelming. So we just have like 5 minutes left. I wanted to kind of do a last shout out here. How do we identify you? And all of you have talked about it, right? Having other people that you work with, partners in the community. How do you identify, who's in that network? How do we find people that are in that network? There was even some chat going on about that too. Which I know you guys probably aren't reading right now, but how do we find our partners? Any ideas? Lisa, how did you get connected with Express?
We were very lucky. But we were looking for Express is a CDFI, just like we are. So we knew that there was some alignment there. as far as organizational mission and vision, those types of things. And then one of the things that I will say too about Express, the first thing they said to us is, we know a lot about credit and we know a lot about being a credit union. We don't know a lot about individuals who identify with a disability. So teach us how to work with people that you're working with. And they were interested in our clients, which they are limited income clients most of the time, and they're probably not going to be great candidates all the time to get a mortgage or buy make a big asset purchase or start a manufacturing plant sometimes, but there's still a lot of value to that financial relationship. And so we were really excited to find them. And I guess I didn't really answer your question of where we found them, but
we answered values alignment, right? And making that connection and them understanding, this is these are the clients that we serve. Does that work together? So that I think that's great in building those connections. And that's what it's important, when you're going to be working with someone. Jerrel, you have your hand up.
Yes, I would have to agree with the values, having to align with that. In addition to that, sometimes you just have to test the water and ask them to show up and see if they actually show up. If they don't, then they're not ready to meet our clients where they're at, and that says a lot in itself. I would also commend this group as well, though, too, by just having different events where we're having this open dialogue. Then you actually learn a little bit more, because there's a lot of information I even learned today. This is open dialogue is where we're actually learning, and I hope that we have this more often. So thank you.
I love it too. And thank you, Jerrel. And Ryan, I know we're in the 11th hour here, so I feel like I should, Jennifer's dropping a lot of stuff in the chat. I'm sorry, Brian, I'm going to hand it over to you.
I appreciate having a little bit of time here at the end to sling more stuff. I just want to give another big round of appreciative applause and love to Jerrel Jones, Lisa Jones, Kandy Bowlsby, and Becky House, who are so knowledgeable and gracious for sharing their expertise with us. I'm going to drop you all out of spotlight so you can see everybody giving you love.
And thank you, everyone. And I want to say thank you to everybody too on the panel. And I hope I did a good job. And you're all amazing. And
this has been a fantastic jump for me back into the world of Fen. I was away for a little bit taking care of my little boy, but this has been just an absolute joy to come back and spend some time with everybody. Make sure that you have next month's Financial Coaching Network on your calendar. We'll be talking with the Department of Licensing and having a listening session about ways that we can give feedback to making the process of getting our clients' IDs a little bit easier. And don't forget to sign up for our July workshops, the lunch and learns on fraud and consumer protection. All of that can be found on fenwa.org/events. If you haven't already, please take a minute and share your thoughts about today's workshop. We use this feedback to help build future workshops and also to confirm what we already know about our speakers, that they are awesome people and deserve love. And so with that, I think that's all the things that I have to say. One more time, please give it up for our presenters, and I encourage everybody to take a little bit of time today to check out the resources on their websites, as well as the credit and debt resources on Fen's website. Oh, go have fun today. I hope it's gray here. Go have fun today. Bye, everybody.